We laughed, we cried, and everything in between. If I could, I think actually, yeah, Lizette, if you can, if everyone just would please introduce themselves and their film.
Yep. Hi, my name is Jeffrey Ho, for Beaver Boys.
Hi, my name is Lisette Ben-Ray, Moon Talk.
I'm Genevieve Joy, and my film is The Hookup.
Really good to meet you.
Zach Lutsky Harris from Victims.
Rachel Day from Victims.
Randy Davison played Peter in Immortal Game.
Hi, I'm Jane Hare. I have a double header tonight. I worked on Victims and on The Forgotten Place.
I'm Brian Flackis, and I acted and produced The Forgotten Place.
I'm Jeff Locker. I wrote, produced, and acted in The Forgotten Place.
I'm Oscar Lozoya, and I directed The Forgotten Place.
I am Juan Escobedo, and I directed The Last Short.
Juan, why don't we start with you and tell us a little bit about how you came about the story of Marisol, and I think I speak for all of us when I say it is such a moving film.
Thank you. The movie is based on a true story from East LA. Every 3 months in East LA, we get together at a round table with different nonprofits, social workers, artists, stakeholders, sheriffs, government officials. And I was sitting next to a social worker, and she was flipping a cigarette lighter, the old kind that you push in the car. I don't know if they still make them anymore. And I thought she was trying to quit smoking. So I asked her, I said, "Oh, you're trying to quit smoking?" And she said, "No, I have to present on a case." And then I started to ask, what is the case about? And she repeated Marisol's story that they used to burn this little girl on her back with that lighter. They would put it to the heat and stick it in her back. And then the other way they would punish her is to put her hands in boiling water. And that's the film. So that really stuck with me. And then she also said that they would put her in a cabinet, lock her in the kitchen cabinet without any food for like a day or water. So that stayed with me, and I really wanted to do the story, and that's how Marisol came about.
And I just have to say, you found such a beautiful way to turn it around and make it hopeful and full of love despite everything in it. So
yeah, the actors were fantastic.
Yeah, really fantastic. So thank you. If we could, we have so many wonderful folks here from Victims. I'd like to just kind of have you guys talk a little bit about that concept. And I was so struck by how most stories about folks who have addictive issues, it's so much focused on them and their process. And I just felt very strongly how much it's a family issue and how it affected all of you. And anyway, again, very, very powerful film.
Thank you so much. I think it was so important to show that different vantage point. I know there's a epidemic with opioid use and all that, and what was crazy to me was when I wrote this and I reached out to people to read it, everyone had been affected to some degree or knew somebody who was affected by it to some degree. And I just really wanted to showcase the tentacles of addiction. I mean, you see it's her husband who's married into the family, who's now, I know every single person down the line. And I really also wanted to put a voice and a face on that, gosh, what's the word? Just like that, the lie that, it's like if anyone's dealt with this, it's kind of that, it's your fault, it's your, you're the reason this is happening. There's a lot of blame to it. And I thought that once we could...
Systemic blame, really.
Yeah, that we could just actually address that and see it from a different vantage point. It almost takes that power away from that. You're able to see it differently, you're able to tackle it differently, you're able to make a plan about what you're going to do differently. And so that was the hope. I just wanted people to know that A, they're not alone, that this is a big thing, and you know, that we can face it and name it and actually try to do something about it. So.
Yeah, thank you. And anybody else? Jane, you've been involved in 2 of the productions. If you want to talk about the producing aspect of both of the films.
Well, 2 very different projects.
Yes. But opposite ends of the spectrum there.
I had both ends of the spectrum, exactly.
Yeah.
I had to get involved with victims because, as Rachel was saying, it has touched so many of us. And it does have tentacles that reach out into the community beyond just the family. But the family is very highly impacted by an issue like that. And then The Forgotten Place, when I read the script for the first time, it was a story of friendship, and especially male friendship, told in a way that I had never seen before. The sort of idea of the flash forwards. And it reminded me a lot of my best friend, who has now passed away. And you have to wonder, or I did for a moment after this film, would I have chosen to be best friends with somebody if I knew I would lose her? And of course the answer was yes, you know, and we went through a lot of ups and downs because friendships have those. So that's why I had to be involved in The Forgotten Place.
That's great. Actually, let's just hand it to Jeff to talk a little bit about, it's just such a brilliant take on friendship and future thinking and, you know, all the things that we probably process it when we get involved with anybody, right? But you took it in this just delightful way.
Oh, thanks, Terry. Thank you, Terry, for having us.
Yes.
By the way, we've been following each other on social media for a while. This is actually a bit of an emotional day because this is our very last screening after a 16-month festival run. So this is the first time Jane and I haven't seen each other in a few years. We worked on another project together. I think the director and we haven't been in the same room in a very long time. So I'm feeling really sad right now, but also like really glad it's over in my own weird way. Yeah, it's I started off as a playwright, and I wrote a lot of short plays about, you know, family drama and whatnot. I moved to LA in my 30s. I lived in Taiwan for 15 years, where it was already not so easy to make friends as like the token white guy dude. But moving to LA already is a tough place, but making friends in your 30s is hard. It's hard anyway, but it was really hard. I was in acting class with this strapping young lad right here, and young Viking in the making, and he's just such a brilliant actor and such a good soul, and so I kind of secretly wrote something. I kind of wrote him as my friend. Like, this is gonna work out.
He's sure to be your friend if you write it apart,
like, he's gonna be my friend. I'm just gonna write it and make it happen. And so I just had this idea that I wrote like in an hour. Wow. And I gave it to him, and he's like, yeah, okay, that works. I don't know, that's a terrible impression of you. Yo, dude, oh, let's do it. And then we did it in our acting class, and like, you just feel everybody just kind of lean forward at one point when they realize it's like, whoa, they're visiting their whole friendship. And people were really laughing. And by the way, shout out to you guys for anybody who laughed and then laughed at the wrong places and then went, oh shit, did he say rape? I wasn't supposed to laugh at that. Like, it's all valid, so you're all good. Because you think we're just two dudes, and then suddenly it got really serious. And then, yeah, I did a show in LA, and it was in this piece was in my show, and people were kind of coming up to me, like random people, and like holding my arm and saying, "I want to talk to you about my friend." And it led us to New York. We were finalists in the Samuel French Short Play Festival, which is the biggest one in the world. We performed it off. We flew to New York, performed it off Broadway. We went backstage and just like kind of cried to each other. We were like, I think something really special just happened. It got published, and everybody was, you know, people. There's some man. I'm sorry, I'm kind of going on, but like,
no, dude,
I just remember there was
festival, so
when
please.
we were performing it, we were kind of like hugging each other. Like, was there somebody in the audience crying? And there was some like 80-year-old man who was just weeping in the front row, and he came up to us afterward and just told us the story about how he had just lost his best friend of like his whole life, and we were like, I think we're on to something. Waited a few years, and I met Oscar, and we wanted to make it into a short, and Oscar had some really great ideas what to do visually with the film. He's an amazing director and just a good man, and that was important to us. And we sent the script out, brought some friends along, and people said, we'll donate our time, and some people said, we'll donate some money so you can get out to festivals, because it's really expensive. And it's over now. Which is, I don't know how I feel about that. Come and hug me afterward. Or just
We'll
whatever.
all be your best friend, Jeff. We will. We'll all be your best friend.
It's really hard though. I'm still a pretty lonely guy, but I have met people along the way, and people have written me and shared stories, and I think it's been such a terrible 2 years for all of us, and in isolation, and this kind of got me out of my shell as a person and bonded me with some people, and I could go on and on, but I'm just very thankful that people liked it and responded it, and if you didn't like it, that's okay too. That's great. Good luck with life and stuff. But anyway, and then the last thing I'm gonna say, sorry, I'm rambling, because it's my last time I'll ever talk about this. But the last thing is, Brian is my creative partner now, so we're actually like really good friends now, which is really cool. It worked, you guys. We adapted it into a TV series and worked on the TV pilot, and we have a big production company that's read it and is circling around it as we speak. So look for it in the future, please, as a TV show. That's it. You guys talk. I'm done. Thank you.
2 steps forward to the light.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll say the whole thing all over again. Shout out to our director, Oscar and Brian. Brian, say something. I need to stop talking.
Yep, let's hear from somebody else. You guys made lifelong friends in this drug addiction story, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just want to say congratulations on a very successful festival run, which is not quite over yet.
What does that mean?
Tomorrow.
Yes,
I was like, do we get into another festival?
This one's not quite over yet.
It's just in, Sundance called.
I know. Yeah, if we go to the Oscars, I'll do it one more time.
Okay, all right, awesome.
Oh, I see. Okay, the awards ceremony.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we're not leaving. We're not done. We're not going back that way.
Actually, if we could just hand it to Randy, if that's okay. Randy, if you could just talk a little bit about the origin of Immortal Game, because it has a pretty cool origin.
So the origin of Immortal Game, it's obvious, well, I don't know if it was obvious, but it's set in the world of Blade Runner and Alien. So it's a mash of both worlds. I played Peter Weyland from the Alien universe.
And you don't have a British accent, imagine that.
I didn't have a very good one. I did my best. The great thing about that character, there's a Wikipedia page about Peter Weyland from the age of like 10 years old to 100. So I had a wealth of knowledge about this character. We filmed it in 2015, so it was before Prometheus came out, the prequels to Alien, which we hit on a lot of things that was about. And I was so mad that it took them so long to get it out. They were dealing with issues with the special effects. In the end, that fell through, and John Freeman, the director, ended up doing the score, the visual effects, the blimp scene.
Right, we saw the credits. It was like, is there another name on there?
He ended up doing everything, and it was a surprise after COVID. He messaged me and Caroline, the other actress who played Ema, and said, here you go, you guys, I finally edited this. Do with it what you will. So here we are.
Yeah, and it's done very, very well.
Yeah, we've been in a few festivals. My favorite, we've got into 2. The Philip K. Dick Film Festival, which Blade Runner was based on.
Awesome.
Do androids dream of electric sheep?
Right.
So we got into the one in France, and we're going to be in the one in New York in November.
Fantastic! Bravo! You mean Sdma is not your favorite festival? Philip K. Dick over us?
This one's my favorite. But I mean, that one's special because it's about his work.
It's great. Good. Awesome. Thanks. Randy, Genevieve, you've got a mic.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
that's convenient.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you because because I hadn't met you yet. So
that's right. Thank you.
Yes. Talk a little bit about the impetus for the hookup.
The beginning of March 2020, I got talked into a dating app. Exactly what happened in the movie. I mean, exactly down to all the people, except my mom. There was a real bartender. Anyway, I went on this date, and that's what happened.
Wow.
Meat hooks too?
Meat hooks, the whole thing. I hang by hooks, all of it, start to finish, okay? And it was awful. And then after this date, I'm like, this is my first online, thing. So I'm like, what's the protocol here? So I text him, I'm like, did you get home okay? And he ignored me. And I'm like, the fuck? Meat hooks guy is blowing me off? What? And, right? So I kind of stalked him on Facebook a little, and what happens when people look at your profile, they pop up in your suggestion, right? Now I had no intention of seeing this person again, but then there was a pandemic. So he friended me on Facebook, and we start liking each other's photos. Meanwhile, I had this conversation with the boys, the other comics. I'm pointing to the screen like they're there, they're not there. I'm like, you saw them. And we had actually had that whole conversation. And Meat Hooks guy, he's like, we should make something together. I'm like, why? And he's like, well, we're both actors, and
Wait, that was really what?
Oh, fuck yeah! When it said as himself, that was him. So that was the day. So here's what I like. So Meat Hooks guy, so he's like, we should make something together. And I said, well, I'm gonna be totally honest. Before they shut down the comedy clubs, I was getting a lot of mileage out of our date. And he's like, really? And I'm like, oh, dude, you're like a gold mine. Are you kidding me? And I said, I don't know how good your sense of humor is, but I could transcribe that into dialogue and we could just, be us. He loved the idea, loved it. Read the script, he's like, oh my God, this sounds just like me. I'm like, I know. So it all was amazing. I was like, we could just use the phone or something. And then I said that to one of my friends, and he goes, well, why would you use a phone? Bruno just got this fancy camera, and he can't use it because his jobs got canceled, and he's just sitting around with his kid all day wanting to kill himself. I'm like, you think he'll do it for free? He's like, what else is he doing? What else is anyone doing? And then, I asked a buddy of mine, he's like, well, who's directing it? I'm like, I guess me. He's like, want me to take a look at your shot list? I'm like, shot list? You're hired, right? It was it all came together so perfectly. Oh my God. And yeah, the fact that everybody was so totally fine, I'm like, these are not flattering portrayals of anyone, myself included, but everybody was on board, And then my mom was in town, and she's like, maybe I could be in it. And I said, well, I guess you could be an extra. Well, if I'm going to come all the way there, I really should have a line. So, hence the bartender. And there we are. So
that was a fantastic story. Oh my God. Thank you.
What? It isn't, well, okay, so here's what's funny about that. The three of us are all comics. I have a podcast, Just Genevieve. It's iTunes, it's wherever pods are casted. The big guy, that's his studio. He's a podcast producer. So it worked out perfectly. Wow. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. And to talk about Moon Talk and the way you created it was quite fascinating. So
yeah, so completely different humor here. There's no humor on this one. There was a pandemic for all of us, and I had done some projects with Michael Hawk, some art projects. He's an amazing video artist, and we started talking again. We're like, there's so much silence. What can we do? So we started saying, let's just start shooting scenes that we just feel like doing, and then we'll create a story after. So it was done completely the opposite, the world was so completely upside down and unexpectedly. And we were shooting just scenes that just would come out from the subconscious, nothing planned, nothing written. And then we started thinking that the only thing that we had was the moon, basically life, death, love, and the moon, and that was it. And so the story started building like that, where he's writing to the moon, and she comes down. and comes down to meet him. And then she has to go again. And yeah, so basically it was that, and it was all, you know, more from the art side of us that came out.
Right, did you mention Michael was in Germany and you were here?
Yes, Michael, yeah, so it was all done on green screen, and of course, being together was amazing because honestly, we really truly believed it. Like it was, since there was so much silence in the world, like being together was real like that. It was the weirdest experience, and I've never met Michael in person, never. So it's just virtual, actually a virtual reality, or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, lovely,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah,
And Jeffrey, Beaver Boys.
Thank you, thank you. It looks like everyone know each other, and I'm like from North Carolina. I don't know what I'm doing here.
No, we don't all know each other.
Oh, really? No. Oh, okay.
Just now we know each other.
Yeah, so Beaver Boys is about, I mean, it tackles a very serious issue, right? Like plastic pollution is real out there. And I'm a comedian actor, and I was thinking, like, I want to, you know, I don't want to do, you know, like, preachy. So I thought, like, if I want to make something like that, if there's a message in that story, then I have to make people laugh. So I created these two characters. I wrote it, I directed it, and I acted it, produced it. I made a costume. It's like a one-man show. So to all the producers, if you want to work with me, please, I'll give you my number, so that I don't have to do it all by myself again. Yeah. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it, and yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for coming here all the way from North Carolina. And thank you. What an incredible array of moving and funny and visually amazing films we had in this. And anyway, let's give them a big round of applause, please. And I hope that you will all stay for our final screening, which is Est tonight, starting in about 8 minutes. Oh, 3 minutes. Thank you, guys. Thank you.